Welcome to this video today. In this black and white study today I show you how you can draw blueberries with just a black and a white pastel pencil. I show you step by step how to do that. Either you are just watching or you grab a piece of paper and a black and a white pastel pencil and draw along. If you're just starting from scratch, maybe my free beginner's guide is helpful for you. It's a free PDF download. You can find the link below in the description. And now let's get started. Let's start with drawing the sketch with very light pressure. So with the black pastel pencil, I sketch in here the stem here, the wooden part of the blueberries, and then I sketch in all the outlines. So try to draw these outlines with a very light hand, that the outlines are hardly visible or very thin. The reason for that is that you can erase mistakes. Use a kneaded eraser or use a normal eraser and just rub away the lines, and that works. It's a really important, and I recommend to work with a very light hand. Draw the sketch here of the berries, the outlines here, one after the other. I work on a sand colored pastel matte paper here, and I really like that surface. It's in the pad number 7, I think. So normally my favorite colors are dark gray and brown because they have the smoothest surface, but the sand paper also works really well. Pastel matte paper is a special pastel paper that allows many layers, and I highly recommend to use it. It is so fun to draw. It saves a lot of nerves and frustration and gives you better results and a better drawing experience. It has a velvety surface and your paper is not saturated so quickly as other pastel paper or other papers are. You can imagine that paper has so little valleys and mountains, and into the spaces between these valleys and mountains you fill in pastel pigment with every layer you draw. And at some point then, when you have drawn many layers, this space is full of pastel pigment and you cannot draw any more on top of that. So that means that the paper is saturated and your lines start to smear and smudge. And pastel matte paper, or for example pastel card from Sennelier or UART paper, other sand papers, allow a lot of layers and you can draw longer on it until your lines start to smear. I then now start to draw the darkest shadow areas in the drawing. So I start with a very dark deep black. I go over the same place here more often and really plot in more pastel pigment in that case, because I don't want to draw anything on top. Here is a shadow below that blueberry. Light cannot come to that area of the blueberry here below. Plot in their shadow also on these dark ends of the blueberries here. There is shadow here between these two berries, is also a darker shadow, and always the berries behind are darker. All parts that are where the light cannot hit the subject. Here this part is in the shadow below that berry in the middle. So let's bring in the black here. You can use here a bit more pressure and make that really dark deep black. Also here is a bit shadow in the middle, on the left, and also on the stems and leaves then. So bring in also shadows on the leaves. Some leaves are a bit more behind, some leaves are overlapping and lighter, and below the overlapping leaves there is a darker part, there is shadow. Here below we have darks, and here this leaf on the upper part is a bit darker. This one has here shadow, and all the leaves that are a bit behind are darker. So let's bring in just a bit of the black here and color all the darkest areas, like here the left side of the wooden part. Darken that down, draw a black line here and bring in shadows. Let's have a look. Where can we add more? Here is a bit more shadow. I add here also a little branch. Okay. I have forgotten this one. Also this one should be black. So I draw here so like a little flower in black. And then I start adding a very thin layer of the black, not as thick as I've done in the shadow areas. This is now the mid-tone part. I add here a very thin transparent layer. Swipe over the pastel mat paper with very little pressure. This layer is very transparent. You see the yellow paper shining through. And then I go also in and add highlights with the white. Let's really make brilliant white light reflection areas where we have the lightest parts here in that drawing. On the left side here, the light is coming from the upper left area here in that case. So let's bring in here highlights also around these darker lower parts. There is a lighter area here. Add highlights on top with the white and make sure you have them in place. And afterwards I use a paper stamp then and bring the layers together. I create soft transitions, so try that too. Use a paper stamp and blend in circles the black and the thinner transparent layer together. Create smooth soft transitions between the shadow and the mid-tone. Let's do that with all berries. Go over in little circles or follow the edges and blend the base layers here. Blend the black, that the base layers are not gritty, and blend here also this very rough transparent layer of the mid-tone here of our gray middle tone, and blend in circles over all the berries. Let's do that one next. And so you can create nice soft transitions. Always make also sure that your values are correct, and for practicing that, such a black and white study exercise is really great to see where are the darkest areas, where are the lightest areas in your drawing, and then bring in the darks, bring in the lights, and then blend everything together. Here too, then swipe over. You can also use the pigment you have on your paper stamp to color that area gray. Vary a bit with the pressure you need. You should not see lines. The surface should be really smooth here. You can press a bit more to blend over lines and remove lines. And otherwise I go here so with middle pressure over it and add, so blend the layers in circles. Let's also blend over the stem here, over the wooden part, and over the black shadows here in our leaves. Let's also blend the black here. It should not look gritty. I don't like grit in pastel drawings. I like smoother surfaces. I like to use these paper stamps to blend the base layer and also following layers really well. And remove grit, remove any dots that can be on top, or for example the first base layer, always it looks gritty and ugly the first stage, but after blending you have a nice smooth layer then. So go over it here. Also use the pastel pigment you have on the paper stamp here for coloring that leaf a little bit gray, and then also plot in a bit of the pigment you have on your paper stamp here on the stems, on the stem, or better to say the wooden part, the branch of these little blueberries. Okay, and then I go in again with the black and darken down the lower parts to create a better 3D effect, to bring in depth and contrast. Add a bit more shadow and blend it and create soft smooth transitions between the shadow area and the upper lighter light area. Darken down the shadow here again a bit more with the black, and also add then a highlight again. After blending, your highlights have darkened down, add them again with the white pastel pencil and soften them a bit with the paper stamp. And then let's do again some details, bring in also some details, a bit of the structure. Here I add more shadow below on that berry here. Add black for more shadow, darken down the lower part, and then create transitions between the gray tones, mid-tone and darks, and above the lights. Always blend that then really well, that you don't have grits, and soft transitions. Blend over them in little circles. Then I take the white and add also a bit of the lighter white around this middle part of the berry here, around that flower area here. Bring in a bit of the lighter white color here around. And then again use the paper stamp for blending. Blend gently over it, create soft transitions. Never have hard transitions. Don't draw only a white line here above. Always blend it and let the colors go into each other. Here below I correct the shape a bit of that blueberry and add here also a bit of a light reflection. Sometimes you also have reflected light in shadow areas. Sometimes you have light reflections there of surrounded areas, and then there is a bit of a lighter part also visible in the darker shadow area. I add also some stains. Blueberries don't have a smooth surface. There are then also some stains on the berries and so on. Yes, and just bring in here the darks a bit more, the blacks, plot them in, add a bit more shadow with the black pencil and blend it then again. Create nice soft transitions. And I have to say it's always the same game. So add darks, add lights, blend the layers together, create transitions between the darker colors towards the lighter colors, so that you have different gray tones, that you can focus on the values. That's a nice exercise to train that, to train your eye to see the values. Where are the darks, where it is really black and where it is really white, and all the tones, all the values between. Let's darken down also this berry on the right here with more black. Add more contrast, add more depth with the more black shadow, with the darker shadow. Increase the darks and then blend it again with a blending stamp. And so you see then more and more your berries will pop up, will stand out. You will create that realism, that 3D effect. You also always can correct some shapes or make the outline straighter, blend along the outlines that you don't have hard edges, and again darken down the dark deep black areas with the black. Go in again with the black pencil and darken down your shadows. Always work a bit on your contrast, on your depth. If you have the feeling your drawing looks flat, that it's most time, the reason for that will be that the contrast is too low. So increase the contrast, make your darks darker and make your lights lighter. And also if your drawing looks more like a graphic or a sketch than a realistic portrait, then most times you have too hard edges. Then try to soften them, try to blend the layers together, create soft transitions, blend darks together with the surrounded areas and let them go into each other. Here I darken down again some parts, here some shadow parts behind the berries and on the berries itself. Below overlapping berries, always the berries behind are darker, they are in the shadow, light cannot hit them so well. And blend the layers together. Create here soft, smooth transitions between the darks and the mid-toned layers. Go over always with the paper stamp a bit and use that blending tool for creating that transitions. That's really so great. You can blend pastel pigments easily because they are so dry, and you can mix the powder easily together. I create here a better beautiful edge here and go over with my paper stamp and blend that again. And then let's take the white and add again our highlights, make them brighter. Add more contrast by going in with a light color, in that case the white, and add a bit more white, add highlights here. Use here the paper stamp too and make sure that you use a clean one. Use one side of the paper stamp for lighter colors and the other for darker areas, because you will pick up the black pigment and then you would not bring it into your lighter areas. You would not so bring in black pigment into these white highlight areas and darken them down. So use one edge, one side of the paper stamp for the lights and the others for the darks, I would recommend. So here I have one side here for only blending the light grays and the white together. Create again soft transitions, soften here the edges a bit, make straighter outlines with the paper stamp, and then I go in again with the white. It's always such a game. Add what lights and blend it. Add another layer of light and blend it again. Add another layer of white and blend it. Always the same. And then have a good look. Have a good look at your reference photo. Where are the darkest areas? Where do I have to need a bit more of dark? And then add again with the black layer and blend it again. And go over with your paper stamp and make it soft and smooth. Here I add also some details on the berries. You know, I like to draw in details. I like to draw very realistically. It's my animal portraits are all very lifelike, and I also want to do that for sure when I draw nature themes. And these berries, I add some little stains on them. On the reference photo there are so blue stains on the blueberries. They are not just very smooth. I also add these little stains here to make them really realistically and soften down them a bit so that they are not so dark. They are more blue than black in original. And bring in then also a bit of a highlight on those branches here. Add light reflections there with the white and then blend that again. Create light gray instead of white. I also like to use the pastel pigment that I have on the paper stamp and then go in with the black. Take the black and darken down the shadow part on the left side where no light hits that branch here, the wood, and add a bit more dark and blend it. Also create so transitions between black and the gray that it looks round and not just straight. Now let's come to the leaves and refine them. Let's darken down a bit the shadow and also add then these fine veins on the leaves with white. Let's add details. I sometimes, when I go to the next leaf, I just bring in a bit more black, darken down black, correct the shape of the leaf, change it a bit, make some corrections and so on. Draw along the edges that the edges are sharp and straight. And then I add here with white some little veins on the leaves, add some details. Here I add a layer with white to brighten up the front part of that leaf that is underneath the overlapping leaf. On the left side there is shadow and here light can hit the leaf and it's light. There are also light reflections on it. It's a bit glossy. And let's add again here these little veins with the white. Also some dots, light reflections, and bring in so different values into that leaf. Darken down the veins a bit that they are light gray and not just white. Here I also bring in a bit of the white just to make that leaf lighter. It would be light green in when we draw that in color, and here it's then a light gray. When we have it in black and white and blend the white and the gray underpainting together and we mix even more light gray. And then I add here on the upper part a bit of a black stroke because that part, the upper part is so a bit overlapping to the front and below it's a bit darker. Add some veins. Also always blend over the strokes that there is no grit. Add some highlights and light reflections with the white in here too. Brighten up that small leaf, the front part, brighten that up with white and mix it in, blend it in with the paper stamp. And so you see more and more how these leaves also pop up, become realistically become, you create a 3D effect by putting in contrast and shadows and highlights only with the black and white pastel pencil. And that's so fun to see how on your paper, what beautiful things you can create on your paper just with 2 pencils. Here the upper part also is the back side of the leaf and it's a bit reflected by the sun, and we see here a bit of the back side of the leaf, so make that a bit lighter. Yes, and darken down here a bit again the shadow areas. And I also go in once more with the white, add some veins here on these teeny tiny leaves and blend the lines, remove these little dots, remove the gritty look. And I'm really happy how this little blueberry study comes to life and what we can draw here in just half an hour. This is really fun, and so well you're able to train and practice to see the lights, to see the darks, and where are the shadows and where are the lights placed, from what direction is the sun coming, and just observe your reference photo and what values can you bring into your drawing. Blend over it, add some final details, some final corrections or adjustments. Make the branch here a bit lighter and make it, soften it a bit more, and I think it's finished then now. I add finally some brilliant highlights again to increase the contrast, add some more little teeny tiny details, make again some light adjustments, play a bit around finally, and just correct some things, take a bit of a time, and then it's finished. Okay, how did you like it? Write it below in the comments. Could you follow? Could you draw your own blueberries with black and white pastel pencils? I would like to hear your experience below, and I hope I see you then in the next video. Have a great time!